It's hard to believe just a day ago I was in the middle of, goodness, probably Oklahoma, with that trailer completely full of stuff behind Mr. Wags, bombing through a light rainstorm. Visiting some friends has its perks. Just kidding. But seriously though, I did pick up a bunch of stuff. Pretty much everything there, minus the diffs, was also in or around the trailer. And this little guy right here is kind of the pièce de résistance. It was the thing that really cemented driving to Texas instead of flying just to hang out. I'll unwrap it from the shrink wrap here in just a sec. But the plan is to put this in the blue M3, which incidentally let me down. I started driving here from Minneapolis, Minnesota at about 5 or 6 p.m. Central on Friday night. And I got to Des Moines, Iowa, which for those of you that aren't from the Midwest, which is probably most of you, is about 4 or 4.5 hours from my home. The car died. Just cruising down the highway, no more power. Go flat on the accelerator, nothing would happen. So luckily we could coast off of the highway. Got off to the side here. If I think of it, I'll put a photo in right now. Where we ended up, but it was essentially just off to a right turn lane. Some very, very nice folks, and actually a V10 FT50 with no exhaust tick at all, which I complimented him on. Pulled out and offered to just yank us with a rope in the bed of their truck over to a parking lot near where we broke down. So, of course, took them up on that. It was about 9 p.m., so getting dark. Got it to the parking lot. You could turn the key, it would crank just fine. Of course, I didn't even try that time. The tachometer would move, so we knew the crank position sensor was good. Cam position won't generally make an engine not run. It'll just make it run really poorly. And if you quick jump the fuel pump, the EKP in the trunk, with a little 13 mil wrench from the toolkit, you can hear the fuel pump run. So we let it sit for about 10 minutes, car fired right up. The EKP was super hot. So what I did is we cranked the AC in the car, because the EKP's in the trunk, and we tried to get as much air possible from inside the car to the trunk. And it made the 4+ hour journey home. But after a 4-hour sleep, we still had to get down to Texas. So the original plan was to actually throw this engine in the blue car in Texas and then trailer the original one home with all the parts. So a bit ambitious. Turned out it was going to be 103 degrees Fahrenheit the entire time we were down there, so that wouldn't have happened anyway. But the blue car's home. It's just fine. I made a custom trailer hitch for it, which was working really well too. But we ended up taking Mr. Wags with no prep, a car that's done less than 200 miles in the last year and a half, effortlessly did about 2,000 miles. So anyway, enough of me talking. That's just kind of the preface to picking this thing up, and man, we'll call it a trip from hell for sure. So here we go. This beauty. It is a fully rebuilt and fully forged S54 B32. It's out of an 05 or 06 M3 coupe. It was originally an SMG. It was actually converted to 6-speed. And then, unfortunately, it met an untimely demise. So this was in one of my best friend's cars. And it was turbocharged. It was making, I think, just over 1,000 horsepower. However, he sold all the turbo stuff. Can't blame him. But this, for whatever reason, when you have that much invested in something, you don't really want to sell it cheap. And there's really no reason to either. But I'm sure he was just getting lowballed left and right, because at the end of the day, it's just a stock compression S54 that's good to hold more boost than a stock one. So stock motors are pretty good for about 700 horsepower, and then you really start to run into some trouble. Anyway, long story short, it is, like I said, stock compression, which is awesome. So the plan is, the blue car has a very healthy S54 in it, 197,000 miles, no records. I was planning to do rod bearings on it anyway, but now the plan is just rip that engine out, stuff this one in there, run it stock for a little bit, and then put a VF supercharger on it. Because I figure I could run somewhere between 7 and 12 PSI just forever on this engine without any issue at all. And it would probably be fine. It's got ARP L19 hardware. It's got new coated bearings, H-beam connecting rods, forged aluminum pistons. It's got, JE pistons. I can't remember exactly everything, but head's been done up a bit. Looks like stock throttle bodies, but they'll still flow ridiculously well. I think this is actually, he said it was an upgraded 200 amp alternator. He was running a lot of rally gear in the car, so some extra amperage was probably smart. Of course, rebuilt Vanos solenoid. It's got forged cryo-traded hub, and it's got the smaller disc in it or whatever. The Vanos is just brand new. It wasn't even rebuilt. It was a brand new unit. So if anyone that knows S54s, you know that this is just about as good as it gets. I'm very, very excited. We had the valve cover off just to look at it. We also took a look at the spark plugs and everything. It's just perfect. It's only probably got 300 miles on it since the rebuild, but anyway, it's just one of those things where the car, I bought it for sentimental reasons, not really for a money thing, and the engine was, you'd rather see it go to use and, just always have an eye on it than try to sell it for some lowball offer to some pleb on a forum. So that's kind of where we're at with this thing, but I feel like it's a great fit for the blue car. Just coming at it from the perspective of that car is probably not going anywhere, and neither will this. But anyway, it's a long, long day ahead. Had a really long week. I think I'm probably just going to go up on the porch, have a beer, and then we will revisit this another day.